wanted to do this for a while now since I have known about this. So for us here in the South, usually this starts blooming even as early as January or late December. And it is called Henbit. Now, Henbit is, I believe the name comes from the fact that you can feed it to your chickens, but it is a weed that is related to the mint family, so it spreads, but it's also in the stinging nettle family, and stinging nettle is used for a lot of different medicinal purposes, but this grows all over our yard. It's everywhere. And since I have known about this, I have wanted to pick some and dry it for tea because that is something people like to use it for. So that is what I'm out here getting ready to do, is pick some of these and dry them for tea. And so I have a bowl and I'm just gonna fill the bowl up, and I have the dehydrator set up because yesterday I went out and harvested dandelions and dehydrated them for dandelion root tea. And I think basically what I'll do is I'll just wash them up and then dehydrate them. So I loaded it up in the trays, and I just did just like a nice layer like so, and they should dry pretty well. I'm gonna do it on high to get them as dry as possible before this evening because I don't want to leave the dehydrator running. But if you don't have a dehydrator or access to a dehydrator, you can always use your oven on the lowest setting possible and just keep your eye on it, and that'll work really well. And then you can also hang them in bunches and allow them to air dry, and that'll work really well too. I've wanted to try this for a while now because when I first was looking up Henbit a couple years ago, one of the articles that came up was all about making Henbit tea, just drying the leaves and putting them in a tea strainer and making tea. It's supposed to have a lot of benefits to it. It's really high in magnesium, iron, vitamin C, vitamin K. There's a whole list of things it's high in, and it's supposed to be really good for rheumatism, and it's it's anti-inflammatory. So I thought, you know what, I might as well try it. So basically, I did dehydrate this stuff. It did take me a couple of days. So what ended up happening was I dehydrated it. It wasn't fully dry. I turned it off. I went to bed. I came out the next morning. I turned it on. And then, late afternoon, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, I checked on it and it was fully dry. They were nice and crispy. And then I turned off the dehydrator and I was going to deal with it later in the evening. And so when I came back to it around 5 or 6 o'clock, during that short period of time, they ended up absorbing all of the moisture in the air and they were no longer super dry. So I had to run it again the next morning. And they ended up drying really well, and so I dealt with them immediately and was getting ready to put them in an airtight container, which you could use as a Ziploc bag or a mason jar or anything like that, anything with a lid to seal it off. And when I went to strip the leaves off, it didn't really strip off of the stem very well. So what I would do differently in the future is when I have Henbit, like I have some fresh Henbit here, what I would do differently is I would take the stem and I would just pinch it off, and I would just dry the flowers and the leaves, and I would discard the stem, dry the flower and the leaves, and then discard the stem, because the leaves don't really separate and come off of the stem super easily. In the past, when I've dehydrated herbs like thyme or rosemary or oregano, I can dry it on the stems and then it just slips right off the stems, no problem, and I can discard them. But those stems are usually more woody and these are awful green, and so they just didn't want to separate very well. So in the future reference, I would separate the leaves and flowers from the stems and then just dry the flowers. And if that's the case, then I probably could put a lot more and fit a lot more into the dehydrator as opposed to what I did, because I didn't want so much overlapping. But you probably could fit way more Henbit in your dehydrator than I was able to. So there you go. So we're gonna try this tea, and I didn't take a sip yet because I promised myself that I would film it. So I'm out here with the chickens, sipping tea out of a glass cup in front of my neighbor's house. You can totally see me. To be honest, it's really mild. It's kind of, I probably could have packed a lot more dried leaves in there. I could see this being used as like a filler in tea, like, you know what I'm saying? Like if you're making something really strong or potent, using that as like your filler. It'd probably be good with like honey, mint. I mean, it doesn't have a lot of flavor. Let it steep for 15 minutes because it's pretty pale. But I mean, it's not bad. It's not bad at all. Like that's the, I mean, truly. It probably really similar to chamomile. I don't know. I don't drink a lot of chamomile tea. I'm a green tea person. I drink a lot of green tea. Yeah, I don't know. It's not bad. It's just extremely, extremely mild. When I'm drinking any tea, anytime I'm drinking any sort of tea, I always leave the tea bag inside of it. And because I prefer my tea to be very strong. And I probably, if I was to do this again and I was like to drink a big cup of Henbit tea, I would probably just leave the tea leaves in there and I wouldn't worry about it. I probably did a teaspoon or so of tea leaves. I probably could have done a little bit more than that. I probably could have gone with a couple tablespoons, or like maybe a couple teaspoons to get a stronger flavor. But it did brew for 15 minutes and it's still very mild. It smells like the dried henbit. When you take it off, it's just, I mean, it smells like dried henbit. I mean, all tea's flavored water, so you always you always have that, like, but to be honest with you, it's pretty good. Like, I don't know, I think the more I drink it, the more I like it. I'm like, oh yeah, this is pretty good. So yeah, I mean, if I was to give it on a scale from 1 to 10, 6 out of 10. You know, by itself, it's just a good mild tea. I'm not opposed to that at all. Thank you guys so much for tuning in with me today. I really do appreciate it. This was fun. Let me know if we should do this again with, I don't know, something else. It's like, what other things can I find outside that I can boil in hot water? So, thank you so much for tuning in with me today. I really do appreciate it. I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you all later. Cheers.